today's conversation, I get to chat with Noel Strange. Now, technical difficulties, I may have missed the first little part of our conversation, but hopefully, as with all of these conversations, you're still able to join in the love, hopefully learn something, and have a good laugh while you're doing it. So with that, let's get on with the show.
6, maybe 7 hours at a time, so uses up a fair chunk of the day.
Yeah. Here's half the country, in full lockdown, and you're just, chucking away as normal.
I know, and most of the country's getting paid for doing nothing, and I have to work to get paid.
You're raging. Have you been doing any more grandfather responsibilities with the kids and stuff then?
Well, no, because with my son and his partner, they're working alternate days. He works for Santander Bank, and his partner works in NHS. She's a nurse at the hospital. So when it started off, obviously being a nurse, she was essential. My son went to his employers, and they said what we would do is if he was happy, they would let him work the shifts that she wasn't working. So that worked in quite nicely. That was quite good of them, so they don't have a problem with the kids that way. And for my daughter and her son, both her husband, as you know, Jamie and yeah. So they don't have an issue. Although we do get to see them now and again. Sure. Go over and try our best to keep social distancing and spend a bit of time in the garden since the weather's been so good.
So I guess that's really nice for them that they're able to still look after the kids and have that time. But then for you, you've maybe actually lost a little bit of contact with those.
Yeah, we don't because we used to have a lot of contact with them because with everybody working, kids spend whichever times they need to here at Granny and Granda, So we would normally see a lot of them. So we are missing that side of things, missing having the wee sleepovers and things that we normally get through the week. So
all the perks of being a grandparent, eh?
Yeah, and there's a lot. Big thing of being a grandparent, you see, is you don't have to be as responsible as parents.
Don't tell your mother, but
so we always get told off the parents for having spoiled them too much.
Do you have a particular thing that you are sort of, Granddad's really cool because he lets me do ...
I think my grandkids think I'm probably really cool because I let them do most things. with my supervision, of course, I think it's like if you can think of it, let's say when your own kids are growing up, like, and they're small like that, and you're out doing something like cutting or chopping or doing whatever, like maybe a bit of work with tools. And along comes your child and they want to be involved, and you do let them get involved to a certain extent, but you kind of have things to get done. So you do push them to one side a little bit. With your grandkids, or at least with me anyway, in my experience with the grandkids, I allow them just to take over basically, and all I do is supervise that they don't hurt themselves. So if things go a bit wrong and get turned upside down or things get spilled, you just say, well, they're only going to be this age for so long because you've had that past experience.
Sure.
So and you don't have the same pressure.
More.
Again?
You value that stage of life a little bit more because you only get it once, really.
Yeah, I think having been through it, you get that. Obviously you start thinking, yeah, I need to make the most of this because, and it's a big bonding thing as well, isn't it? Like you have this, I want my grandchildren anyway to be able to come to me with anything. I want them to see me as somebody that they can trust, somebody they can rely on, and like come and if they talk to me and say, don't even tell my dad and mom, that my way of looking at that, although obviously you have to be careful there, is that that's their decision to put me in confidence. And that way, hey, it's taken out of my hands,
Yeah.
Because I think if you have that openness with them, and they can trust you to do that, there's more chance they will come and talk to you if something's really troubling them,
For sure.
bullying at school, things that they sometimes struggle to seem to talk to parents about.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That makes sense.
There's things as you're growing up that you sort of go through and you want to speak to an adult, but you might not want to speak to your mum and dad just because you see them every day and, maybe you've broken a plate and you don't want to tell them or whatever. And you want to seek an adult, but you just want a little bit of separation. So I know a few times before my nanny died, went to her a few times and spoke from her experience. And I mean, simple things like I hadn't fully realized she had owned a couple of businesses when she was younger. So I was able to sort of speak to her and she was sharing her insights. And yeah, the times are different, but there's still the same basic lessons that you learn. And then my gran, she's still alive and she's very relaxed and has a really open attitude towards life and relationships and that kind of thing. So it's really refreshing to speak to her and learn from that, because also not only has she had her own 4 kids to learn from, but she's also had all of their kids to learn from. So it's an even broader experience of life.
And I think you learn, like looking back in life as well, you learn that why was I so uptight in that situation, or why did I respond in such a way in that situation? You look back on it and you think, if I had a chance, I would do something, I would do it differently. So when you do have similar things that your own kids or their kids are obviously experiencing, you can shed a bit more, what would you call it, experienced advice on it. Whether people take advice or not, that's obviously
that's the choice.
You can at least offer it.
I heard of something really good recently. It was you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink it. But you can put salt in their oats. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, you can't put salt in their oats. You can't, or you can.
You can put salt in their oats to make them want to drink.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. Yes, right. Okay. See what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
So whenever you say, looking back, there's times where you think, oh, I shouldn't have been as uptight or whatever. Do you actually have strategies, or are you consciously aware now of going, I know how I would have reacted to this maybe 20, 30, 40 years ago, but now I'm able to make a different choice? Are you able to do that, or do you still find yourself getting wrapped up in it?
Yeah, I think when it comes to your own personal self, JP, like obviously when you're in a moment or something like that, your character comes through mostly. And if you're the type of person that gets hyped up over certain issues or certain things, I think your tendency is going to be to do that. What experience will allow you to do is maybe revise that a little bit quicker and a little bit earlier in a situation, and then start to maybe, alleviate it a little bit or bring it down a notch, or, just have a wee bit more, what would you call it? Not common sense is not quite a word, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm driving at. You have a wee bit more to call on to how to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, I know something I found quite useful more recently. I would be one of those people that would get really wound up about stuff and just let them mess over it.
Yeah, I don't see you like that. No.
Really?
Maybe I don't know. Maybe obviously I don't. I know you from. I know you maybe outside of that so much, but I never see you as a person, because you always look so laid back, so calm, so cool.
Well, the advantage I have there, Noel, is that you get to see me when I'm in my comfort zone, when I'm able to direct attention to other people, not on myself. But something someone said that I found really useful was, when you've got a big decision or you're starting to stress or obsess over something, is sort of think, in 5 years' time, will I remember this?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was kind of cool, because it helps you put things in perspective and go, you know what, this is actually quite a minor deal. Or conversely, actually, no, this is going to be a big impact, so it's worth taking time over it.
Yeah. See, I've often found in life that it's the little things that I would blow up over and get like sort of worked up and get annoyed about or whatnot. When something major happens, I tend to respond to it and deal with it,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Because I suppose of the seriousness of it, you realise you have to get on and sort this. You find a solution or whatever. So I've always found that for me personally, like when it's something big that's happening, I generally stay more like in control over it. Whereas it's the little things like, especially with around the house with your partner and things like that, that you kind of nitpick and argue and bicker about, you know. So and then afterwards you think that was stupid. Of course it was stupid. You know, it's like.
Yeah. So,
And men are much better at saying sorry. I've learned that in life.
well, you got to do that in a relationship, don't you? You just got to. You can't. If you win all the time, then it's no fun for either of you.
Yeah, obviously, like as we all know, like we're all old enough to know that long-term relationships only last because of lots of compromises along the way. And I think most compromises, in my experience, come from the gents' side of things.
No comment.
Women have a way of getting their own way. I think probably most men are more like what would you call it? You said that we look for an easier path in life, so we tend to give in more than because that's the easier route, you know. As women are prepared to see out to the bitter end, like that's generalizing. Obviously, I'm not having a dig at one.
No, we are in very dangerous territory here. I'm going to shift gears slightly. Are there any areas that you really dig your heels into and you're like, no, I'm not compromising on this?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, there's things that you feel strongly about. So obviously, you're not going to backtrack on something that you really feel strongly about. But if it's getting into that sort of territory where this is now like a real confrontation, then I think, like me again, I would stay calmer. I would tend to be right. This is escalating, or it's getting to a point where it's going to be hard to find a resolution. So you try to then like be a wee bit more PC about how you try to get your points across.
Hmm.
And then I'm not just talking about home life. I'm talking about in general. Like there are situations where like you can be in a group where you have a good idea of their politics, for example. Maybe they're talking about issues which you're totally on the other side of the fence from. So you can't just blast off in an environment like that and thump the table and try to put down your feelings. But what you can do is let them know how you feel without being overly without being really stressed out about it, or just let them know that you're prepared to accept that they have an opinion, but it differs from yours.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I get that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really hard to do, is have that sort of calm within the storm.
Yeah.
But what happens is that because you come across in control, people are more likely to take what you have to say on board. Whereas if they see you flying off the handle or losing your patience or whatever, they see that as a sign of immaturity almost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He says, often flying
don't
off.
get me wrong, I do have a temper as well, and it can be provoked. And once provoked, it's hard to get back in the box.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I'm a redhead. Can't tell anymore. Before you say it, I'm saying you can't tell anymore, but I'm not proving it.
Okay, so it's pretty interesting to see how you deal with interactions and maybe making some changes in your life, what would you say are some of the biggest changes that have, I mean, it's not often I get to speak to people over, say, 55. I maybe come in contact with less than 10 in a month. So it's nice to be able to learn from
your ages.
Exactly. I know you, and I know you've gone through a lot of changes in your life, both with where you live, your job, all that kind of stuff. So maybe it'd be nice to know like your top 2 or 3 big changes and kind of how that affected you.
I would say, like, just off the top of my head, the biggest changes that I went through in my life is obviously different countries, having lived in different countries and making that move to go to those places. And then
What countries are we talking here, Noel?
adapted. Right. Well, I left Ballymena and Northern Ireland when I was 22. I went to South Africa.
Wow.
And I went there. Sorry?
At 22, especially, that was what, like the 20s? No, what is that, 50s, 40s, 60s?
That was in, let me see, 22, that would have been 82. 1982.
Oh, right, okay. Sweet.
Yeah, I'm not that old, JP. I know I look at it, but hey, come on now. No, that would be
but that's a big move.
No. Well, it was, but I mean, I always had a bit of a desire to go somewhere. Like, to be honest, Australia was captivated, and I wanted to go to Australia always. That was like from an early age. Don't ask me why. Just had this thing in me that I wanted to go to Australia, right? So when I served my apprenticeship, which was up in British England and Antrim, that was just before they closed down. I just completed my apprenticeship probably just about a year before they closed down. Maybe even shorter period than that. But I was fortunate I got kept on for a little while because of the department I was working on. But what happened was, because it was a textile company, and South Africa had quite a few textile companies at that stage as well, they obviously know what's going on in the world of textiles. So they were advertising in the local papers for people to go and work in a company in Durban. And it just so happened that one of the guys that was an apprentice along with me got a job and went. And he was a really quiet, like, you'd almost describe him, I don't mean this in a nasty way, like a slightly weird or nerdy type character, you know, and up and went, you know, and like, then, so he contacted a couple of us and asked us if we wouldn't be interested. So we went and had interviews and got offered the job and whatnot. And the next thing you know, bang, hey, I'm not going to Australia, I'm going to South Africa. I'm going to Durban. And that's how that came about. It was sort of, it wasn't a totally premeditated thing in the sense that I would go to Africa and set out looking for a way to get there. It was something that just came along in my life, as most of the things happen in my life. Are situations that crop up and okay. Yeah. So I actually inspired, believe it or not, that three of the two guys that I served my apprenticeship with, we all ended up within the space of a few months. We ended up with the same company in Durban.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, that was quite helpful in many ways. Like, obviously having that wee bit of support base there as well when you were
100%.
And
because otherwise,
one of them, the other. Sorry, say again.
Otherwise, you would have been quite vulnerable out there, not having like any contacts or anything. But then you're pretty going. So
there is quite a big, or there what like when you look back on it, there was quite a big British or Anglicized type of community out there, like Irish, Welsh, Scottish, a lot of English. You know, there's quite a few of our sort of home country nationalities out there. And the place that I worked in, we had quite a few guys that were actually from Northern Ireland that were managers that come from Portugal, from ICI and places like that. So there was a very strong base, which helped. But I don't think it would have been a bad thing if it hadn't have been there either. In some ways, it might have been better because you would end up getting maybe more with the South African people. You know, we
Sure.
spent a lot of time socialising in a little sort of British group. You know, it
Yeah.
was only when I started playing football again out there that I started branching out a bit and getting a few friends that weren't
Yeah.
uh, always from the sort of British environment, you know.
Sure. And did you get to know them well through football, or was it kind of more like an acquaintance sort of thing?
No, I mean, obviously within a team group, there's always going to be maybe 3, maybe 4 people that you really strike it up with, you strike a connection with, you get
Sure.
a good rapport going. And those people, like some of them I started like socializing a bit more with, going out, like obviously quite young. Pardon me. You start going out at night time, a few drinks and whatnot, so you get to know the
No.
guys quite well. Yeah, in those days, JP, I have to be honest, you know, I don't sit with any great, what would you call it, pride or anything like that, but there probably was way too much of that side of things.
A wild past.
Well, what happened was, I mean, I grew up in a very religious background.
Sure.
Both my parents are what you would call Plymouth Brethren. I don't know if you know that term or come across it.
Uh-huh.
So it's like it's not strict in that sense, it's just a very evangelical church, right? So when we were brought up, like there's a lot of things that we weren't allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to do pictures. Or the cinema, as you call it, we used to always call it pictures, old timer, you know. We didn't have a TV in our house until I was about 16. We weren't allowed to do a lot of stuff. Sundays was like your games had to be very subdued. Yeah, there was no ball games, no things like that. So what I'm trying to drive at is when I went to South Africa, here I am, 22. Now I've got a flat of my own, sharing with another couple of lads and whatnot, you know. So,
Wow.
yeah, if I went missing for 2 days on a rampage, nobody came looking for me, or nobody was standing waiting to wag their finger, or nobody complained about me coming home and falling in the middle of the floor and not getting up for the next morning. So yes, there was there was a lot of I suppose wiles about the only way you could describe it. And in South Africa, drink is a big part of the culture. I mean, beer especially is like just the way we drink water in some ways.
Sure. So you were out there 22, living with some lads, and then how long were you out there for?
Stayed there for, let me see, 5.5 years initially. Okay.
Initially.
Got married and had a child in that time.
Okay. Oh, in South Africa.
In South Africa, yeah, my wife's South African. And
cool.
Nikita, Jamie's wife, was born there.
Right.
As was my other son eventually, but that's part of the story, I suppose, in that we came to Northern Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
We stayed here for about 1.5 years, maybe close to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did not resettle here. It wasn't for me at that stage, you know. Like,
was it the culture?
My wife loved it.
Was it just family life, or?
I missed. I think there was just a bit more freedom to life for me there in South Africa, or that was how I received it anyway. And wife loved it. She really enjoyed it. And
well,
what happened was
of it, right?
Say again.
That was her first experience of Northern Ireland, was it?
Oh yes, that was her first experience of anywhere outside of basically Durban, nearly. You know, like Durban. She didn't come from Durban. She came from down the coast, like probably maybe 40 minutes away down the coast from Durban. But we came here. My wife is from Indian background, right? She did in South Africa. There's a big Indian community, especially around Durban. And if you look back, if you remember, like when Gandhi's life story, if you know anything about Gandhi, Gandhi spent quite a bit of time in South Africa,
Right.
and all the injustices that were going on there and whatnot, which obviously added to his feelings about the injustices that were going on in India, the, the time that the British were there. But so obviously when we got married, it was it was still in the apartheid years. So marrying across the colour line like that was like, oh dear, it wasn't what most South Africans seen as the right thing to be doing, type of thing. So
Yeah.
I suppose when we came here, then Shirley had a much more relaxed environment than she'd ever seen before.
Okay.
In that sense, to do with anything to do with colour and things like that. Like people weren't stopping and looking at us because we were holding hands in the street, type of thing. So she enjoyed it from that perspective. I couldn't settle, and we ended up going back to South Africa again.
Okay.
And back to the same company that I was working for. They paid my flights and all to take me back, and so that made it easy to make a decision.
Yeah.
So went back there, spent about a year and a half. Again, just we lived slightly outside of Durban the second time round. Durban's good. Durban's a very nice place. Kind of going into a wee bit of a time warp now in South African terms, but when I was there, it was the main touristy place in South Africa. It's like a bit like the Gold Coast in Australia. It had lovely beaches, had a good, but obviously it's got a decent climate, but it was, say, like most of the South Africans holidayed in and around Durban, So anyway, just give you a wee bit of background on the place.
That's interesting.
But so we ended up going back, but living away from Durban itself. We stayed there for about a year and a half, but then the crime in South Africa at that stage, this was coming near the end of the apartheid years. Crime started ramping up. There was a lot of house break-ins, people murdered in their own house and things like that. It was quite a serious time.
Jeez.
So I got an offer of going for a job in Botswana, which was further north in South Africa.
Okay.
And I ended up going up there and thoroughly enjoyed it. That was probably the most rewarding experience, job-wise, living-wise, and family-wise that we had in our family experience. That was
Wow.
It was a very rural place that was out in the middle of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
But there were enough expat families. There was I think originally there was like 120 expat families in the village that had been built specifically for this project that was going on. So it was everybody was kind of in the same boat. It was a pioneering type spirit.
Exciting.
I think it was brilliant the way people just gelled together and just helped each other, and it was just a fantastic experience. It's such a big experience. That's probably the biggest experience in my life, that something that I could sit and talk about here for hours without a break. But it's one of those things not everybody wants to hear about, so you don't often get the opportunity to expound on it like that.
Okay. And is that I just noticed the picture on the wall behind you. Is that anything to do with Botswana?
That picture came from a street artist in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe.
Oh, right.
Right, which was across the border, one of the countries that borders with Botswana.
Okay.
You have South Africa on the bottom side. You have Zimbabwe out to let me get this right, which would be the eastern side.
Uh-huh.
Then you have Namibia and Zambia up at the top end, Southwest Africa on the eastern side.
Okay.
So we would, like, in those days, that was before Zimbabwe kind of imploded and fell apart a bit. we would holiday a lot in say like Falls, Victoria Falls, or down in Bulawayo, some great spots that we used to go to in Bulawayo. And that was like one of the trips we were over. There was a guy selling things on the side of the road. Oh, that's pretty good and whatnot, you know. And they were like, as you know, in those situations, I mean, the things are like dirt cheap. I mean, they're like giveaway prices. I mean, normally people are standing there haggling with them, and I'm the type of person, I'm giving the guy more than he's asking for because I just think it's unfair. It's unfair that he shouldn't be paid like something more realistic to what. That's just my way of looking at certain things like that. I've always had a soft spot, I suppose, for people like that, and so that's how that came about. And there's actually 2 or 3 more of them about here as well.
That's really cool.
Some of them are not overly athlete, but sometimes there's a wee bit of an echo when we swap over. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It must be nice having that those reminders of that sort of peak time in your life when things were, you know, most satisfying.
Yeah, I think like it's nice to have that. Not that I think you require them because of such a big experience. It's something we'll never forget. Like both my kids more or less grew up in Botswana. Their first, like their really formative years, they both did their primary school education there. So we spent 8 years there, and it was quite interesting because the primary school was good because it was mixed. Obviously, you had a lot of local kids and the expat kids going to the primary school together, but it was a school set up by the mine, as we call it, and it was a really good standard. They brought in good teachers, and like when my daughter came home here and she was halfway through, or would have been her first year when we returned to Northern Ireland, and she had to go and sit like tests and whatnot because we wanted her to go to the academy, and she breezed through them. That was like, yeah, she's quite a clever girl in her own right, but it was also good basis. I think they were quite surprised at just how good her education had been up to that point, like when they knew the background, you know. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good experience all around. It was like great, the wildlife and the places we got to go, things we got to do. I mean, it's just like you could just head off into the bush and pitch a tent. You know, there's nobody stopping you doing things like that. And
good.
Yeah, you got to be careful because like there's quite a few instances where people get foul of the wildlife. You know, not from our groups, but from one of the diamond mines, which was in what I don't know if you're aware of, but Botswana has 3 big diamond mines.
Okay.
Which produce a lot of a large percentage of the world's industrial diamonds.
There was a film called, was it Black Diamond or something? Or Blood Diamond? Is that
diamond?
Yeah, is that kind of, maybe that's a different country they were talking about.
Could well be, JP, because some of the things like some of those things sort of go your head sometimes. Like there's a lot of gem quality diamonds come out of any diamond rich environment like that. But the majority of where they were making the money from is the industrialized side of it. You know, like the smaller non-gem quality diamonds. Like so, there was that brought a bit of wealth to Botswana, and it was good in a lot of ways because it's quite a big landmass, but it's semi-arid. You know, most of it's like sort of savanna land, that type of territory. But it's got a very small population. Like when we went there, the population of Botswana was only like 1.5 million or something like that. It was like size, like population of Northern Ireland in a country about 20 times the size, maybe even more. yeah, it's quite big. But great place if you like wildlife, if you like getting out and nature and witnessing that, because one of the big things about it as well is like if you went camping and you were set, like you could, like even in the recognized game parks, which are massive, when you camped, there were no fences. So at night time, if elephants decided to come through the campsite, if lions decided to come through the campsite,
Oh my word.
you were, you just you had to deal with that. Like,
Did you have any
and if
kind
you
of,
went camping on your own out in the middle of the bush, like, again, say again, the wee echo just takes you out.
did you have any close encounters?
Well, we've seen a lot of animals up close and personal, but never seen any of them get aggressive with us.
Okay.
Like never felt in a situation that they were going to attack or do anything like out of the ordinary, you know.
Sure.
Did get in a couple of situations where we thought, oops, we've kind of overstepped our mark here a wee bit, but fortunately nothing bad came out of it, you know. Like we went away a trip just out into the bush with a couple of friends one time and all the kids, and we were driving, like, obviously 4x4s, we're all in 4x4s, so there's about 3 4x4s, like, whatnot, with our camping gear and all with us. We're going to spend a weekend out in the bush. And we came across this water hole, which came across this water hole, which when we went down, got a closer look, it opened up to a bigger one. I thought, wow, this is ideal. We'll get set up, we'll get the tent set up, it's still daylight, you know, we'll get the braai fires going, as you call them in that part of the world. It's barbecue, get the fires going, get everything started, and we can sit here as the sun goes down and watch all the animals come into the water hole, you know. So we did this. And then as it got a bit darker and we were eating and the animals, yes, there's big herds of buffalo coming, like, geez, like herds of like 300-400, you know. Big herd, like, or quite biggish herds of elephants coming in, like maybe of 30-40 at a time. And all of a sudden we realized we had backed ourselves into a corner where there was absolutely no way out but through really thick bush. So we were like, yes, this is a brilliant spot for what we wanted to see and like witness all this going on. But we had not taken proper, like, we didn't show proper awareness of what way we could probably get everybody packed up and out of there if it need had arisen, you know, if you get an elephant that starts to get a little bit aggressive or something like that. But we got away with it. We were fortunate. Nothing bad. A big elephant came up really, really close to us, rubbed himself up and down against a tree that we were parked close to or set up close to, and sort of checked us out a bit, and disappeared off into the bush. That was it. So, but I mean, as I say, there was a couple of doctors when I was my first year in Botswana. There was a couple of doctors from one of the diamond mines. They did a similar thing, went out into the bush with their kids, and lion took one of the kids out of the tent at night time. That never found. Kid was never found. Obviously, it became a meal, and that was because they were silly in that they had a tent without a ground sheet in it. And obviously, what happened was someone going outside of the tent, lion came along, had a bit of sniff and a lick, thought, oh, fresh meat, and just dragged the kid out of the tent.
Oh my goodness.
And like that was one of the things that all the people, we had a few guys amongst our community that were quite bush savvy, and they said you do not go anywhere, camp anywhere without a ground sheet, because if you a sewn in ground sheet, not just a ground sheet, the tent had to be one piece of the tent. So obviously snakes, scorpions, things like that. But obviously, you know, a lion would come to the tent and doesn't recognize it as a tent like we do. It doesn't think, oh, I could just swipe this and open it up. It sees it probably as like a pool or a big thing that might be a bit soft and squishy, but it wouldn't come up and just start ripping into the tent for no reason, you know.
Yeah.
So if you followed certain guidelines, it was generally pretty safe. But obviously, again, there was always alcohol involved. So sometimes people did things that weren't always the most sensible. Let's put it like that. Sorry, I'm probably digressing because it's something I enjoy talking about.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of want to use that a little bit. Obviously, you sort of described this as the most sort of fulfilling stage in your life, both with family, work, where you were situated, all that kind of jazz. So, how do you go from that sort of peak and then, 5, 10, however many years down the line, you're in a situation and you're looking back on that time and thinking, "Jeekers, oh, that was awesome," and maybe thinking also at the same time, I kind of wish I was able to have that same fulfillment now.
Yeah, I think when I look back in that particular situation, it was always a situation that was eventually going to come to the end. Because what we were there for, the whole purpose of us being there as expatriates was to train the local people, and they would eventually take over your jobs and run the whole enterprise without us. That takes time, so that's why I was offered another contract at the end of my 8 years, and we decided to move on because of the kids' education.
Sure.
But it was always going to come to an end. Having said that, because it was such a good time, like for the kids and for us, there is always a hankering for some of some of the things to do with that. Just like you believe it or not, we had a great social life at that time.
Yep.
Again, I was probably a bit too much of the old, but there was great. There was a lot of things always going on. There was never nothing going on at the weekend. Always somebody organising something and whatnot. We also played a bit of sport. We made our own golf course. That was an experience. I had a bit of hand in that. We designed our own golf course. No grass. There was no way you could have afforded. You couldn't. There was no way we could afford it to have grass there. Like, because again, it's basically the ground is really sandy.
Right.
And but we cut away trees in the bush and stuff, and we made like the shape of a golf course.
Just the best bunker course in the world.
Yeah, we just changed it. We just changed and made a few rules that, because the ball wouldn't run when you hit it, like when you obviously hit a big long shot, bang, here you get a bit of run along the ground as well. We adapted a rule that we had these pieces of AstroTurf, sort of, and you could either put that down and play your next shot off that, or you could put it on a tee.
Cool.
Put a tee in the ground, play it off the tee. So that was, and then for the greens, which we didn't have either, we had big area. We had areas like a green, but we used like old oil, and we saturated that area with old oil so it soaked into the sand. And then we had a big thing like a rake, but it was smooth on the bottom, not teeth, and you swiped that to smooth the area, because obviously when people walked on it, you would get footprints. So you were able to swipe that before you lift your ball, swipe it, and then take your putt. And the next person come along, like obviously they'd be walking back and forth over it. They were able to do the same thing. You got a swipe with this implement to make it puttable, and it worked.
That's pretty clever, no?
So we had a good golf club, and that was one of the things that, like, socially took off quite well, because there was a lot of like playing golf that I hadn't played a lot of golf before in those days, and we had a very good squash club. So I played quite a bit of squash in those days. That kept me at least a little bit fit. Like, kept me mobile and active.
Well, because we've talked a fair bit since you joined CrossFit Ballymena about the past, okay? And I get this great sense from you that there's a longing to return to the past, in the sense of, I was strong, I was fit, I was mobile, I was able to do all of these activities, and that was kind of your social outlet. Where then maybe for a while that kind of slipped when you were working out on the out at sea and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when like obviously when I came back here, finding good employment was not easy. there was probably more competition as well. Like there's more people around that had your qualifications and skills. But after jumping about from one job to the next, sort of spending like a year here, a year there, a couple of years in this one, I ended up going out to the North Sea, out to the oil rigs, and spent probably like 16, 17 years. Well, the total period was probably about 15 years, yeah, 15 or 16 years. But in that, I had a years out on the way. So I worked in the rigs for about, well, probably about 12 years, all in all. And yeah, that changed things a lot in that you're away from home, you miss the family. So you're like, thankfully, both the kids had got to, like, I think Leno, who's the youngest of the two, was about 14 when I first went to the rig. So he was old enough to understand and whatnot. Like, I'm going away to work. But what it did give us like a lot more money in our pocket than we would have had if I'd been working around locally.
Sure.
But it doesn't make you rich. Working for other people never does. But it does give us a good standard of living, like throughout, like most of our time since we've been back home here. That's the bulk of our time has been I spent out working out there. Like, but it was a good balance, because at that time they had it what they call a 2 and 3 rota. So it was 2 weeks out there, 3 weeks at home, which was a good balance. It was good, and I packed it in when it changed and it went to 3 weeks out there and 3 weeks at home. Made a big difference. But yeah, it is a big change in that way, JP. And I think, like you say, yeah, you do hanker after the good times of, I think in everybody's like in everybody's life, they hanker after the good times of their youth. But there was periods there that there were so good times, so really good times that yeah, you wish you could have some of that back. But I think this is when you're old enough to realise, you can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. One of the big things I miss, like about the whole South African, Botswana and South African experience, is climate. I mean, having still there.
What? Yeah, one of the things you miss about South Africa was what? Sorry.
Climate.
Right. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what we've had over the last 10 weeks. If you can imagine it being hotter than that and like that all the time, mostly, that you could depend on the weather type of thing. Botswana, especially, Botswana was very hot. That's a different. I mean, the summer temperatures there were like you're talking mid 40s. Like nighttime temperature didn't drop below about 32 degrees. It was nearly unbearable.
You being a redhead, eh?
I mean, I know, like, you would think I'd have been a burnt crisp by now.
I love it.
See, you find ways to cope, you always find a way. But no, that is a big thing, because climate when you live in a nice climate has a big impact on your lifestyle. You do, because you can plan outdoor activities without even giving the weather a second thought, and it's really bad luck if it turns sour on you.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, that does have if I could lift my whole family and move to like the south of France or something like that had a more like enjoyable climate, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. I would quite gladly do that. Nothing against Northern Ireland. Nice, lovely country, little country. But the way the weather chops and changes can be a bit frustrating at times.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about the past, like you say, two months, where although you've still been at work or whatever, a lot of people haven't. They've been at home. Now, we were totally blessed with the weather we had. Had that not been the case, had it been wet and miserable the whole time, I would be fascinated to see how that would have affected people's mental health and well-being and just state of the country. I think people were quite relaxed, and although, yeah, it's not great, not having a fulfillment from work or whatever. But at least they were able to do stuff around the house. They were able to, you know, be outside, work on their garden, things like there was stuff to do that wouldn't have been there, was it, if it was miserable?
Yeah. I think, like you say, the country in general has been very fortunate. Could you imagine if this had came like sort of at the back end of September last year, and now we were in the lockdown over the winter? I think there'd have been a lot more suicides. There would have been probably a mountain more divorces. It would have been devastating.
Yeah.
That would.
Well, like during the winter, my mood just plummets through the earth. Pretty much every year. The only year it didn't was the year I lived in Australia.
Yeah.
And I went from summer here, summer in Australia, back to summer here again. I cannot remember a happier time in my life. Just from knowing day to day that nothing was going to get in the way of doing stuff I wanted to, and like my skin cleared up, and you know, doing stuff out in nature all the time. Where here, it's like, oh, I'm so relieved to get a day to do that.
I think that's to say with climate, it does give you that nice freedom. Even like in the clothing perspective, you wake up in the morning, you've got your slops, as we call them, flip flops. You got your shorts and sometimes not a t-shirt or a very loose t-shirt, you know, and you spend most of your life like, or your casual life like that was spent like just relaxed basically. And it does have a big impact, like, doesn't it? I mean, you've experienced it yourself.
Yeah.
It has it. Because I think why the frustrating thing of the weather here is, like, I play a bit of golf, right? So I'm working, right? So I'm looking forward to getting around to golf. Bang! The day that you book to play golf, the heavens open. So you get washed out. You don't get your round of golf. So that cranks up the frustration a little bit, and you know that's how the weather can impact.
Yeah, I would say so. Way to see this seamless segue here, Noel. I would say that the weather has a transformative effect on your mind and body.
Yes.
Something else that has a transformational effect on your mind and body.
That was a very smooth transition, Tiffany.
How would you say, since joining CrossFit Ballymena, it's transformed, say, even just your body or even your mind?
Don't know about the body. It's still pretty rubbish. But it's definitely had, joining CrossFit has had a really positive influence on me. I think it came along at a good time as well, in many ways, because I'd come off the rigs. I hadn't been, I packed that in. I didn't really want to go back again. There was, you know, it was that period where I just got sick of it, type of thing. And I've taken the odd, what would you call it, like foray into going to gyms and stuff like that, and trying to get fit. And I think when you've played a lot, like a fair bit of sport in your life and whatnot, you do sort of want to have a bit of fitness. And I've let things slip quite a bit through work and through life issues basically and whatnot. But how did it make me feel going to CrossFit, or how did it make me feel not being?
Having things slipped, how did that make you feel?
Well, you look at yourself. I mean, probably never, for me, it probably never slipped to a point where I was a real couch potato or anything like that. Like, I still played golf and was active to a degree, you know. My job when I was doing it is not active, but you have to, you're on the move. Like, you're not sitting in an office, like, you're working with tools, you're up and down stairs, you're in and out below machines and stuff like that. So there is a bit of activity there. But what really got me and what was niggling away at the back of my mind was my dad, who still alive. He's 93 years old this year. Yeah, but he's basically incapacitated. Well, he's not basically. He is incapacitated. He spends most of the time in the bed nowadays. When he retired from work, like, probably he was well into his 70s when he finally retired, like fully. Um, he's a sort of reclusive personality,
Okay.
and so he would stay in his own house a lot. He loved music, so he spent a lot of time listening to music. But he was very, very inactive. And over that period, I tried to encourage him. Like I tried to get him I got him a little bike, like stationary bike for in the house and whatnot. Tried to get him to do a few things like that. And he's, yeah, I'll do it. But he never did it. And slowly, he lost basically a lot of his muscle. How would you define it? You probably define it better. Like his muscles just became very weak and whatnot, And I think I'm not saying he still wouldn't be in a bed today, but I think he would have a lot more years of activity before he would have got to that stage.
Yeah.
And that stuck to my mind, and I thought I don't want to let that happen.
Yeah.
I don't want to let myself go.
What happened to you?
Yeah, I don't want to find myself over to getting to a period of like maybe in a few years from now where you've got into a situation where it's really, really difficult to retrieve.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, how would that? Like, what sort of things would that change day to day for you?
What would it change not being reasonably fit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would. I think it changes a lot of things, doesn't it? I mean, like when you go to do things, you sort of things like you would go and do now, and they don't have a major impact in that you wake up the next morning or the next few mornings and you feel you can hardly move because you've been doing something exertive which you're not normally used to doing. I mean, you can still have that when you use muscles. You're maybe in a different way from what you're used to, even when you're training. You maybe go out like cut your hedges or something like that. You will feel a bit stiff and sore, but your body, having doing a bit of exercise now, it definitely copes with it a lot better. Your recovery times are easier. Everything. So I think like realizing the fitness was slipping and had slipped, well, not just slipping, had slipped. I mean, you seen yourself when I first came to CrossFit, I wasn't particularly fit or great endurance or anything like that. Probably you would say still not, but I think there has been an improvement over, must be getting nearly to a year now, isn't it? It's probably about 10 months. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Certainly. I think it was about September last year, so 9 months anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big time.
And,
Okay.
so it was good. Like one of the things I found, like when I first went out to CrossFit, I went with Jamie to one of the Sunday sort of like fun days that you had. That was Jamie. It was Jamie got me. Jamie is obviously probably everybody knows that CrossFit as well. So he's my son-in-law. He took me out to. He says, "Look, Sunday, why don't you just come along and see?" Because he knew that I'd been talking about it, and I'd seen Jamie improve over a few months that he had been there already in front, like before I joined. And I thought, I'll go out and have a look there, and why not? So nothing to lose. I went out there, and yeah, within a short space of time, I think like you pick up a nice vibe. You pick up there's a good, relaxed atmosphere about the place, and of course yourself and the coaches come across really, really well. You can see that, I mean, you standing back and watching, and how you were with the people that went to the gym regularly. You could see there was a good relationship there. People were, they had respect for you. They looked up to you from a fitness point of view. So that is probably the thing that sold it to me the most, rather than just the fitness side of it. It was like, yeah, this feels good. You could see that a lot of these people were quite fit compared to me. So that makes you think as well, like maybe I could get there, So that's basically how I get started off with you. And yeah, I haven't regretted it.
So I'm going to try and summarize here, Noel, and see if what I'm saying matches up with what you've just said. So you were scared that you were going to turn into your dad, in the sense that not very capable, almost bedbound, which would then affect how your relationship with your wife is. It would affect how you interact with your grandkids. and overall how satisfied you were with your life. And what you found was when you came along to CrossFit Ballymena, you saw a really cool social environment, which calls back to a time in your life when you were very fulfilled and very happy with your golf and your friends and your football and squash out in South Africa. And what was also cool about that was that you could see there were plenty of people there getting results, that were becoming fitter, and their lifestyles were still able to work. Like, it wasn't all encompassing on everything else that they did. So it became social, you got good results, and it meant that you were still able to do all the things in life that you wanted to do that make you happy.
Yeah, that sums it up. If you think like being a little bit fitter, I mean, I still think there's a long way to go on that journey, but certainly being a little bit fitter, it lets you do the things that you do enjoy doing better. You know, I mean, it makes them. It makes a lot of those things like easier. It's like getting up and down with the grandkids and whatnot. It's like if I'm rolling about on the floor with them or doing something like that, it doesn't take me 10 minutes to get back up again. You know, it's like I can do things with my grandkids that I look around when we're out places and you wouldn't see other people. I'm not saying there isn't other people of my age that could do it, but you wouldn't see other people of my age doing the same things with their grandkids. They're mostly sitting watching them. Right, I'm actively with them. I'm involved with them all the time. You know, like they're climbing and stuff, and and but I think that's something that I always wanted to do anyway. So the fitness side of it has allowed me to do that as best as I can, if you know what I mean. It's allowed me to get down and dirty with them.
That is awesome, Noel. Awesome. Super cool to see, like you say, your grandkids are such a big part of your life at the moment, and to be able to interact with them in a way that's meaningful to them on their level. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, big.
I'm gonna let this car drive past.
I can hear it slightly there in the background, yeah.
Cool. Sweet. So what I want to do, Noel, is finish up 3 quick fire questions. Now, they're maybe not short questions, but let's see if we can be nice and succinct and see how we get on. Yep.
It's not one of my strong points.
All right, here we go, Noel. So
I like to rattle on.
Well, we'll see what we can do here.
Right.
I think this car is coming back again. Give me a second. I need the door open for the Wi-Fi. Okay, so what 3 things do you need to accomplish in a day for you to classify that day as a success?
Right, that's an interesting question. What 3 things? Like one of them obviously would be active. Okay. Like hopefully fit some sort of activity into my day. Try and get a bit of exercise done. Other thing I think is like just getting things done that maybe you've got been hanging about needing to get cleared up. If you get on and do something, I think there's always a feeling of accomplishment and achievement when you get something like that knocked off the list. Yep. That's always a nice feeling when you do something like that. And obviously, like if you're interacting with family or anything that day, it's all good. It's all as it normally is. Like, but it's just that's a big game and keep them back to it. But that's a big part of what we're about as a family. Myself and my wife, and that makes my day feel good when I've had a bit of time with the grandkids, a bit of time with my own kids, and have achieved a bit of exercise and maybe got a few tasks done that needed to get doing.
Awesome.
I think that's at my time in life. That's plenty.
I like that. There's a huge part of having a list. What I've done before is before bed, I would make a list of 3 things, and I'd make sure that those 3 things get done before 11 o'clock in the morning. before anything else gets in the way and stops me getting them done. And I find that really powerful. Just tick, 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 boom, nailed it.
Yeah.
My day is now awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like how you feel when you've done something like that, it does give you a, like, even if they weren't difficult things or monumentous things, it just still gives you that feeling of achievement. Yeah, I've got those out of the way, you know.
Massively.
I wouldn't be just quite as diligent as that.
Sometimes
I'm quite a good procrastinator when it comes to certain things.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bestow upon you a superpower. All right. I'm going to allow you to become a dictator of a country for some time. Okay. You're allowed to bring into effect one mandate that is going to have a positive influence over the population. What are you going to do? This
Justice.
is obviously before you get assassinated, by the way.
Justice.
Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, can you dig a little bit deeper into that there Noel?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, everybody thinks dictator and thinks bad things, right? But a very, very good dictator is probably one of the best things a country could have.
Yeah.
Because there's not same like people standing in his ways of doing or like getting things done. And if you've got a good dictator who wants to improve his country, then it would be awesome, because he would get on and get a lot of things implemented that otherwise just get hung up with people fighting over them and whatnot. And I think justice, if you have a just society, I think the society will start and work well.
And how are you going to get this society to be just?
Well, how would you get it to be just? I mean, obviously, you're going to have to have a very, very strong basis in law. But I think, like as we all know, often in law there's no justice. So it's getting that to become when big issues would get in front of courts and things like that, proper justice is seen to be done rather than law is applied to the situation. Because, I mean, you know yourself, good lawyers can twist things in knots and get people off things, can get people away with murder, like the old saying that you got away with murder. And yeah, and with a dictatorship, you say you would be able to, I think you'd be able to apply that a lot easier. Yeah, there would have to be a firm hand at times. Like, that would be the difficult side of it, knowing when to be firm, etc. But
that's
I think, like, if you have a just, sorry,
that's the curse of the dictator. That's when they kill you.
Yeah, like, obviously you've got to be careful how you would go about it. You can't just do things like that overnight. But I think if you had a just society, I think the economics within a society would be more balanced as well, because like if everybody was buying into the just, once they see how good a just society can be, people buy into it, and I think that the disparity would narrow a lot. I know this is a very quick conversation, and it's like you're taking a lot of liberty with things, but that's just something personally I think that would improve any situation.
Cool. A little bit more love in the world. I like it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
with justice, I think those things come along as well, because if you've got a just society, people will recognize each other's needs and a lot more than what we do probably in today's westernized world.
Yeah. Cool. I like it, Noel. I like it. Okay, final question, then you're off the hook.
Right.
What are you most grateful for in life?
Family.
There it is.
My family. I just like, there's nothing about my family I would change.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Because so often you hear, "Oh, I wish this was different," or "I wish that was different," but actually to have peace and be satisfied with the relationships you have and the the people involved. That's pretty inspiring. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fortunate in that. I mean, I think most people love their kids, but I think I'm really fortunate in that I think that love comes back the way as well. We've got a really good relationship with our kids, and subsequently the grandkids as well, which again, there's lots of love to be had there, and wow, that's special.
That's class. Well, Noel, thank you very much for sharing the love. I've definitely felt it coming back. I've definitely learned something from this, and I've really enjoyed having a laugh with you. So,
how did you manage to learn something from that? You're a liar.
alrighty, Sid. I've taken enough of your time for today, and I know you need to head off to work soon. So, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you back in person.
Yeah, that'll be good.
That'll
Be really good.
For now, a virtual fist pump, and that'll do us. Cheers.
As you say, cool beans.
Beans.